going on, everybody? It's your man, Louie T, here with another installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. Lot to get to tonight. So, Olympic U.S. men dispatched of Brazil in short order. We'll touch on that very briefly. Tyreek Hill got some new money. I failed to mention that on the last show. I don't really want to talk too much about it, but it does bear mentioning. A lot of teams have released their unofficial deppies for the first time. So kind of gives us a little insight as to where some of these young quarterbacks are and some of these battles that we felt like were going to be kind of heated heading into camp. So we see the status of some of those. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Obviously, Bears training camp, Hard Knocks, episode 1. Want to discuss. And then Brandon Aiyuk. Yeah. That situation escalated pretty quickly, didn't it? So let's get into all of that. And preseason week number 1, we will preview that here on the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. So without any further ado, you know what it is. The LouieTeeNetwork podcast starts now. The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 438th installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. As I mentioned, lots to get to tonight, and I am not going to waste a lot of time. Olympic men crush. U.S. men's basketball team crush Brazil. They advanced to the semifinals. I forget the score, something like 122 to like 86 or something like that. They beat the brakes off of them. It wasn't close. And I've talked about how good this team is. And if they're making shots, nobody's going to beat them. And I don't even see games being that close. I think the best thing that happened to this team was them almost losing to South Sudan, because it offered them that wake-up call that, look, at any time you can get got if you don't bring your A game. And they've really been, an unstoppable force since that near scare. Kerr has done a masterful job of manipulating the lineup. KD coming back was massive, obviously. He's been outstanding. This was probably his worst game shooting, and he still, poured in, I think 11 or 12 points. Set the Olympic record for the most points scored in Olympic play, passing Lisa Leslie, who previously held the record for the most points scored in Olympic play. So shout out to KD for playing in the Olympics that many times to be able to set that record. Not everybody, feels great about Olympic play, but KD's one of those dudes that just loves to hoop. So you give him another opportunity over the summer to hoop, and he's going to take it. And shout out to him for setting that record. And I don't know if anybody's going to break it. I don't know if players today value playing in the Olympics as many times as KD has. So I don't know if anybody's going to break that record. A lot of guys like to experience once or twice, and they're like, I already did it. I'm good. But shout out to Steve Kerr, too, for inserting Devin Booker into the starting lineup. I think that was the move that has really transformed this team, to be honest with you. A lot of people will make, things about Jason Tatum, who has struggled mightily. Man, Tatum is struggling. And that's an understatement in the Olympics. But, a lot of people have talked about Embiid. He had a game where he didn't play. He was outstanding in this game, 3 for 3 from deep. I think he was 6 of 9 from the field, 3 of 3 from deep. And I think he ended up with like 18, 19 points. So He was very effective and efficient in this game, 16, 17 points, something to that effect. Um, the U.S. knocked down 15 threes. If they're doing that, good luck beating them. That's the bottom line is if they're knocking down shots, you're not going to win. And so they're off to the semifinals. I think I don't know who they're going to play yet, but it really doesn't matter to me, honestly speaking. Um, I think that if they play their game and they're knocking down shots, they're the best team in the pool, in the field, and they're going to win. So Tyreek Hill got a reworked deal essentially. I wonder if this deal is the last one that he'll sign in his career. So it's essentially a 3-year, extension, new money. I think it's like 90 some odd $1 million. I didn't see the exact figures. It didn't really register for me because he was already one of the highest paid wide receivers. I don't know if this deal makes him the highest paid. I know it's a lot of guaranteed money. It gives him, I think, the most guaranteed money in NFL history for a wide receiver, but which is well deserved. But I remember him saying he wanted to stop playing at a certain age. I wonder if this deal takes him to that age, and he sees this as his final contract. I don't know. Guys talk. Yeah, I'm done at this age, and then they get to that age, and then they're not done. So I wonder if I really believe him. I take him at face value. If he says I'm done at 32, I don't know how old Tyreek Hill is either, but I'm just throwing out numbers, and I believe him when he says that. And I think at that time he said I'm going to play 4 more years or whatever. And now it's 3 more years, and he signed a 3-year, or he agreed to a 3-year, extension essentially. So I don't know. We'll see, but good for Tyreek Hill. And did you guys see that fight with the Giants and the Lions in their joint practice with Malik Neighbors and Kirby Joseph? Did you see that fight? So I don't really know the particulars of what started the fight in terms of like what made Malik Neighbors so upset that when he ran past Kirby Joseph, he gave him a forearm shiver. I don't know what happened before that. Obviously, he was upset about something. I would hope that he didn't just run past him because the pass that was thrown to him on the play before got broken up in the end zone and he was pissed off. So he just ran past a Detroit Lion defender and gave him a forearm shiver for no reason. I would hope that maybe Joseph was roughhousing him, 2 plays earlier, and this was his opportunity to, let him know he didn't appreciate it. Something had to happen. Whatever the case may be, he runs past Kirby Joseph after he had a one-on-one shot in the end zone with a corner, and it was broken up in the end zone. He's running back to the huddle, is Malik Neighbors. He runs past Kirby Joseph and just gives him a forearm shiver for no reason. Like, again, I can't say for no reason. He gives him a forearm shiver. Joseph is like, what the bro? So he immediately runs up on Malik Neighbors and serves this man a 4-piece combo special. I mean, damn, these were some clean shots. I'm like, come on, Malik, bro. You can't start some shit and then catch a 4-piece. I mean, that man's head was like a damn rock'em sock'em doll. His shit was like waka 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 waka. He was eating them shots, man. God damn. I was like, hey, Kirby, don't break your shit on his helmet now, because he was walloping his ass with them shits. All I saw was Malik Neighbors' helmet just going back, like a goddamn like what bobblehead. Waka 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 waka. I mean, it was hilarious. And I always get a kick out of the person that starts the melee and then wants to backpedal, right? Like, if you're gonna start some shit, stand on business, right? Stand on your 10 and hunker down and say, hey, what's really good? So he's eating shots as he's backing up, and then he throws a couple of shots, circles around, and then he's backing up, right? He's prepping himself, because if he's coming back for more, I got to be ready this time. I can't be eating shots like this. So he's got his fist, ready, but he's still backpedaling, right? And now there's like 8 Lions, trying to hold back Kirby Joseph, but also trying to get at Malik Neighbors. And then, it kind of just turned into this big, scrum. He scooped up somebody by the legs, and then everybody just engulfed, him in the whole pile. And that was it. But it was good theater, right? You love to see it. Uh, it's funny because this time of the year, that's what you expect when you get joint practices. A little chippiness, a couple of teams going at it. You've been going at it with your own teammates. Now you see somebody different with a different colored jersey and helmet, and now you feel like you can get your shit off. And it usually leads to a little bit of extracurricular activity. But that was crazy. So that fight, and then I told you guys about the rookie Xavier Worthy getting jammed in Kansas City. Those are the 2 craziest things I've seen all training camp to this point. If you haven't seen Xavier Worthy, the Kansas City Chiefs rookie, getting jammed to the moon and then catching a forearm shiver because he got jammed so far inside, he got jammed into the linebacker who just chucked him with a forearm and knocked him down like a bowling pin. Please do yourself a favor and go check that out as well. But anyway, it was good shit, I must say. And as a fan of a team that's about to enter into a joint practice, I hope we don't have any kind of foolishness like that going on. But if we do, I hope we don't have any players eating 4-piece combos like that, right? I don't want 4-piece nuggets going down on our side of the bracket, right? So hopefully, if you gonna start some shit, be ready to finish it. Don't be over there starting shit and then eating a 4-piece combo. Anyway, I digress. So let's jump into our gym dropping session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, Bears. Training camp with the Chicago Bears, Hard Knocks, episode 1, debut tonight on HBO Max at 9 p.m. And it was a great watch. I enjoyed the first episode. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you. I knew it was going to be a lot of Caleb Williams. And I didn't mind. I mean, he's a very, very polarizing figure. I'm really interested to kind of see them peel back some of those layers of Caleb Williams. So I don't mind. I think that's what made the Bears so interesting as a choice for Hard Knocks this summer was Caleb Williams and the intrigue surrounding him. But I was impressed with the presentation of the episode, the different directions that they went in. I want to see where they go next because they didn't give us like the guy that they're going to follow that's a long shot to make the team. I think they did what they did with the offensive lineman who ended up getting hurt because he did the show, the rookie show that teams do. And his performance was way out there, right? It was a little different. So they just followed him knowing that he got hurt so they could really end him in one episode, like focus on him, give him a little sliver, and now he's out of there, right? So now they got to find someone new to follow. I'm assuming it's going to be that quarterback. He's not making the team though, right? But the kid that got in last for the Chicago Bears, they have 4 quarterbacks in camp. I'm assuming he's one of the guys they're going to follow. They may have to follow somebody else too. But anyway, I'm gonna go in chronological order in the way that these things happened in the episode, and I just kind of talk about the things that I really liked. So they started off the episode with the Caleb Williams call for the draft, and it was again, I don't know what I'm expecting during these calls. Like when the Giants called Malik Neighbors, it was a really subdued call. And I had some Giants fans like, no, that's just how Malik Neighbors is. It's his personality. Then I had another couple Giants fans be like, nah, I think he was really like not feeling going to the Giants because of Daniel Jones. But it is what it is. Like, you want to get drafted as high as you possibly can. But he wasn't necessarily ecstatic about going to New York. Whatever the case may be, Caleb Williams's call wasn't all that dramatic. It wasn't filled with a ton of emotion or none of that. But he knew who was drafting him, right? He knew there was no intrigue. There was no guessing game for him. It was all a formality. It was literally, let me show up, sit here for 10 minutes, and then hear my name called and then go home, right? Like, he knew he was the first pick in the draft. So I think that's kind of why his call was, was so subdued. That's, I didn't really think it was a lot of, excitement and joy, and it was kind of business-like almost. But that's how they started the episode. Then I thought I'm nostalgic and I got goosebumps when they had Ray Clay, who, if you were a Bulls fan in the 90s, then you know who Ray Clay is. But he was iconic for the intros for the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. And now, your starting lineup for your Chicago Bulls. I could listen to Ray Clay do that all night long. And he did the intro for Caleb Williams as he got onto the field for training camp. And that was pretty dope. I thought that was a nice touch by Hard Knocks. And then, Caleb, we had already seen the clip, excuse me, of Caleb Williams. We already had seen a clip of him divulging his signing bonus and how the players reacted to him saying that he had like a $25 million signing bonus or whatever it was. So that wasn't a surprise. We had already seen that. What was interesting was his choice for the rookie show. I always think you're better off doing comedy, like emulating a coach or doing a funny skit or something. Unless you can actually sing, don't sing like that. And then he had the audacity to pick a song that he didn't even know the words to. Like, what are we doing here, guy? Like, he deserved to be. I was at home like, boo that man. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, yo, throw stuff at him, please. Ball up a piece of paper, throw it at him. If you got a banana, throw that at him. Like, don't let him off the hook for this one. And they did throw stuff at him, and he deserved it. It was trash, right? But it was funny because they used the song that he used, which was John Legend's Take It Slow. And they talked about his struggles in camp. And I really appreciate them showing that because, when you're on social media, you get caught up in the hype. All they talk about is how well he's connecting with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. And you can easily fall into the trap of thinking, man, he's killing it at camp. And he probably is playing really well at camp. But he's a rookie and mistakes are going to happen. And every day at practice isn't going to be great. And there's growing pains. And that happens to every rookie. I don't give a shit who you are. Yeah, CJ Stroud had a great season last year. There were ups and downs last year for CJ Stroud. And that's going to happen to every single rookie, whether you get injured in your rookie season, which CJ Stroud did last season. You have some games where you don't play well, your team loses. Whatever the case may be, Robert Griffin III won Rookie of the Year in 2012, but he got injured, and there were games where he didn't play all that great. And so it happens, right? Cam Newton was fantastic in his rookie season, won Rookie of the Year, but he had games where he struggled and his team struggled overall and only won 6 games. So at the end of the day, as a rookie, you're going to struggle at times. And I was glad that they showed that at practice, that, while he's the number one pick, a ton of fanfare, they literally said, Liev Shriver said that Caleb Williams has an opportunity to be the biggest thing in Chicago since Michael Jordan. Let that shit resonate and sink in for a second. That's how big of a deal Caleb Williams is in Chicago. He's got a chance to be the biggest thing in Chicago since Michael Jordan. So I thought that was pretty cool. Them kind of showing that side, like, hey, it's going to be some low days. It's going to be some rough days. It's going to be some things that he's got to get better at and overcome. But overall, he's got the tools to do it. You see him sitting down with his head coach, Matt Eberflus, and they're showing Eberflus and his family. It's funny because in my mind, I'm like, I like what they're doing. I know what they're doing. But Eberflus could easily be fired next year. I kind of feel bad for the man, right? Because if this thing doesn't go well this year, if the Bears don't win 9, 10 games and make the playoffs, Matt Eberflus is probably fired, but I wish him nothing but the best. I love the fact that he brought in Nick Saban to pick his brain. I could listen to Nick Saban all day long because there's a wealth of knowledge there and a perspective that very few people in the profession have. There are certain guys that are wired a certain way, and when you listen to them speak, it's just so profound, and you see why they had the success that they ultimately had as coaches. One of those guys is Jimmy Johnson for me, and the other guy is Nick Saban. I could listen to those two dudes talk all day about, how success is gained. And, I think Saban has an even more unique perspective because he's still in tune to the young athlete and understands how they're wired, which is why he got out of the game, because he's like, okay, all of a sudden now it's not about playing for your school. It's not about getting better. It's about NIL and getting your hands on this money, which I can't fault kids for wanting to get their hands on this bread. For too long, institutions have been making tons and tons of money off of their backs. So if you can get yours, get yours. But at the same time, I get where Saban is coming from. It's not the game that he, loved coaching. And so he got out. But to listen to him talk about the quarterback position in particular and expectations, what it made me think of as a Commanders fan? If you haven't really been paying attention to this, the Commanders have been very intentional with how they've handled Jaden Daniels. They haven't paraded him out in front of the organization like Daniel Snyder would have had he been here and made him the center of attention. They're not putting him on season tickets, right? They're putting other guys on that, right? They didn't even have him rolled out after he was drafted number 2 overall. They didn't even roll him out at the draft party. They do that every year for the first round pick, pretty much. That was standard operating procedure under Daniel Snyder, especially if it was a quarterback. Are you kidding me? I'm going to hype this guy up, but they didn't even do that with him because they want to taper the expectations. They didn't name him starter right away. Why? Because they want to taper expectations. And they've done such a great job of doing that, managing those expectations, because expectations can swallow a young quarterback whole. Or as TD Jakes once said, have you ever been swallowed whole? Pause. I love the way that Saban phrased it. Like, there's expectations, and then those expectations are put up so high, right? And now this young quarterback who's trying to figure everything out all at once, how to be a pro, how to fit and assimilate with his teammates, how to, play in the NFL, how to, the offense that he's, playing in, his teammates, et cetera, et cetera. He's trying to figure out all this stuff on the fly and meet these ridiculous expectations all at the same time. And not everybody handles failure the same way, right? If you don't meet those expectations, and we know the type of society that we live in today, it's not like once upon a time where you got 4 or 5 years as a young quarterback to figure it out. Had Peyton Manning thrown 28 interceptions in today's NFL, oh my God, he'd be crucified. He's garbage. He's a bust already, right? You don't get another chance after you throw 20. They would have benched Peyton Manning, in his rookie season if he would have thrown 28 interceptions. There's no way they would have let him throw 28 interceptions in today's NFL and just let him keep playing through it. And the fan base would have been okay with it. They would have been tearing him to shreds on social media. And every show, every talking head would have been talking about, oh my God, what a terrible pick it was. And they should have taken Ryan Leaf. And he talked about that. He was like, Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions, NFL record in his rookie season. And it didn't faze him. And he told him, the scoreboard doesn't matter until the end of the game. And he's like, the biggest thing you got to do is you got to manage the expectations for Caleb Williams. And he's like, yeah. So, what did you do with the quarterbacks? And he's like, I always stand behind the quarterback. So then they show Matt Eberflus standing behind Caleb Williams. And he's like, I never, chastise him in front of the team. If he did something wrong, I pull him to the side and I tell him. But I never air him out in front of the team, etc. And that's a different way of going about it, because with Belichick, he wants everybody to know that nobody's bigger than the team, and I'm gonna air you out in front of everybody. He would do that to Tom Brady to set an example that if he'll do that to Tom, what you think he'll do to my ass, right? So you have coaches that do it differently. And I think that is a winning formula, by the way, doing it that way versus setting an example of your best player so that everybody else falls in line. But to each its own, right? Anyway, I thought that whole situation was really good. I enjoyed listening to Nick Saban kind of explain how he would handle Caleb Williams. And I think his former player, which I did not know that Matt Eberflus played for Nick Saban. I think he's going to take his advice and do a lot of those things and implement a lot of the things that he told him. I thought the Jonathan Owens segment and portion of the show was great. I knew they were going to do that. My wife had talked to me prior to it about, them probably doing that. And sure enough, they did. And it's just, I love their relationship. I love seeing the love that he has for Simone and how he supports her. And I just love that whole dynamic that they have. I thought it was really a class act by the Bears to allow him to go to Paris to watch her perform for a few days and then come back and, be a part of the team, miss the Hall of Fame game and all of that good stuff. So kudos to the Bears for getting it, for understanding that the Olympics is much bigger than a few days in August in training camp, right? So good for them for understanding that. One, we have extra days in camp that other teams don't because we play in the Hall of Fame game. So yeah, he could miss a few, days of camp and still be able to be effective, make this team and be a part of this team. So shout out to them for doing that. Obviously, they had the rookie tackle, Theo Benedict, who was from Canada, perform at the rookie show and pull the tearaway pants off to expose American flag with the eagle underwear on. And they gave him a nickname, the Canadian Eagle, after that. Short-lived. Obviously, he got hurt in the Hall of Fame game, but that was a pretty funny moment there. How about the DJ Moore deal, right? That was so smooth how they did that. Like, it's funny because we're going to talk about Brandon Aiyuk a little bit later on in the show. and how his situation, like there's such a stark contrast between the foolishness that's going on with DJ Moore and what most receivers and players in this league have to do to get paid, the back and forth and the scrubbing of the social media and just all of that extra stuff that comes with trying to get a new deal, versus how they just said, he's got 2 years left. We traded for him. This kid's been awesome. He's been nothing but a professional. He's been consistent, reliable. He's really got no guarantees left on his current deal. Let's just rip that shit up and let's give him a 3-year extension worth 110 million and 82 guaranteed. Like, who's saying no to that, right? So they get Drew Rosenhaus and his brother up there. This man is in the middle of practice, and the Bears GM Ryan Poles calls down to Matt Eberflus like, "Hey, just do this discreetly. If you could, send DJ Moore up when you guys are getting into special teams or something, so we can try to get this contract done." And I don't know if DJ Moore was aware of like how close the deal was to getting done. I'm pretty sure he knew what was going on, and his agents were aware of the situation, and which they made DJ aware that they were thinking about extending him. But it was just crazy. He's in practice 1 second, the next minute he's up in the GM's office signing the deal. And then 2 seconds later, he's back in practice, and everybody's like, "Bro, did you just?" He's like, "Yeah, I just signed the deal." And then the little song that he and Keenan Allen was saying, I don't remember what it was. I wish I would have went back to see what it was, but it's something like, "I do what I want to do." It was funny. It was funny because Keenan was like, "If coach tell me to do something, I do what I want to do." Like, yo, I got money now. You can't tell me nothing. And so that was funny as hell. Um, I thought the slide drill was pretty cool. So obviously, when you have a mobile quarterback like Caleb Williams, it is imperative that you try to teach him how to slide. Caleb said he already knew how to slide. He had already taken a couple of courses to learn how to slide, and so, but they wanted to make sure, like, bro, we just want to make sure um, you're the number 1 overall pick. Like, you're one of the biggest commodities in the franchise currently. We need to make sure that you know how to slide. So the quarterbacks coach was like, "Yeah, one time when I tried to learn how to slide, we used the slip and slide." So they showed him using the slip and slide to help the quarterbacks learn how to slide. That was pretty dope. And they looked, and then they turned it into some fun. And Caleb Williams was like, "Yo, we should pull this joint back out at the end of training camp, right? Or even on a hot day." He said that was fun. So it was cool to see them having a little fun there too, right? Um, then the last thing that I'll talk about on this episode was, obviously we watched the Hall of Fame game, and we knew, and Joe Buck had hyped it up. He had already said, Liev Schreiber is going to be talking about this connection between Brett Rippon and Colin Johnson. And so, of course, he did, and he said, "Anything for a fan." Right? He turned on the voice of God, as they call him. Anything for a fan, Joe. Right? But he talked about the the play and all the touchdowns and whatnot. And then they cut to Caleb Williams, who was like, "Yo, Colin, he gonna be on this, he gonna be here for a while." And he says that, and he's really talking to DJ Moore, but he's kind of saying it towards the field. But he's talking to DJ Moore, so he looks at DJ, and he's waiting for DJ to like co-sign, right? And DJ's looking at him like, "What you want me to say?" And then DJ finally says, "Bro, how many wide receivers you think we keeping?" I said, "Oh shit." Damn. Like, if I'm Colin Johnson, I'm feeling some type of way about that, because essentially what he's saying is, ain't no space for that dude on the roster. I mean, this is great what he's doing tonight, but he doing that for somebody else. He ain't doing that shit for us. And I got to thinking, well, how many receivers are the Bears keeping, and how many do they currently have? I don't know what the I don't know the particulars of their roster. I'll have to look it up. But you think about it, they drafted Roma Dunze. They have DJ Moore. Um, they traded for Keenan Allen. I mean, that's 3 right there. I don't really know what the rest of that room looks like and how they feel about the rest of those receivers. So I'd have to look to see if they're really like 6 dudes who could box out Colin Johnson. We know 3 of them. I just named them that could box Colin Johnson out and keep him from making this roster if he continues to play that way in the preseason. But the fact that DJ Moore said, I mean, how many receivers you think we keep it? And that's a man that's in that receiver room with him. I'm like, damn, homie. You ain't have to do my mans like that. But anyway, I thought episode 1 was well done. I enjoyed it. Looking forward to episode 2. And I wonder now, not the biggest thing that I wonder is, will we see Caleb Williams in preseason game number 2 for the Bears, but week 1 of the preseason against the Buffalo Bills? That is the $1 million question. There are only 3 of these. I think he needs to get out there. I would play him in the first 2 preseason games. Again, not a ton. And I don't know if they have joint practices with the Bills. That will go a long way in determining if he's going to play in the preseason. You got joint practices. You may not need the preseason. I still think you should be putting him out there. Let him get his feet wet. Possession or 2, not much. Get him out of there and do the same thing in the second preseason game. And then you're ready for the regular season at that point, right? We'll see how they decide to handle it. But anyway, episode 1 in the books. Thought it was well done. Looking forward to episode number 2. Let's transition to social media maneuvers. I'm a midnight marauder. Y'all know what it is. If you're out there, you want your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent and time permits, use the hashtag LouieTeeLive to have your comment read on the air. If you want to ensure that your comment is read, use the super chat function to jump straight to the front of the line and ensure that we react to your comment live on the air. So, with that said, let's get to the first order of business, and that's the DEPIs, the depth charts that were released around the league. Everyone is forced. Every team in the league has to present an unofficial depth chart prior to preseason game 1. Some teams have put it out already, others not so much. Like, for instance, the Patriots get on my damn nerves. Like, you literally play on Thursday. Put the goddamn unofficial depth chart out. What are you waiting on, right? Nope, they haven't put their shit out yet. They're waiting. And we don't have to do it until before the first preseason. Well, the first preseason game you play on Thursday. There are 2 games on Thursday. You're one of them. Put the goddamn depth chart out. What are you waiting on? We know that Drake May isn't starting, so who gives a shit? Just put it out. But I digress. That was one of the ones I was kind of waiting to see, what the verdict was. Of course, the Patriots are assholes, so they don't have theirs available yet. But some other notable teams that I wanted to sniff around their unofficial DEPIs to see what they had done thus far were the Vikings, the Broncos, Commanders, and the Steelers, right? All of those teams either had a quarterback competition or young quarterbacks, rookies, essentially, that they had drafted, and you want to kind of see where those guys are in the pecking order. I noticed that I did not add in the Falcons in this discussion because we kind of know that he's not starting, right? And I would assume he's QB2. I don't even know if they put their unofficial DEPI out yet, but I would assume that Michael Penix Jr. is QB2 in Atlanta, but maybe he's QB3, right? At this point, it really doesn't matter right now, to be honest with you, because there's still so much time. Not a single preseason game has been played by most teams in the league. Only 2 teams have played in a preseason game. The other 30 have not. So there's still a ton of time to decide where guys ultimately are going to, end up on the depth chart. But in Minnesota, um, there the Vikings have Sam Darnold as their starting quarterback, which we talked about already. He's number one right now. And the Vikings took the bitch road in the bitch route, and they copped out with their second quarterback. They put J.J. McCarthy and Nick Mullins as both second string quarterbacks. Ah, you sad sons of a bitch. Um, just pick somebody. Godly. Really? Both of them are a second string? Grow some balls. Put somebody at 2 and somebody else at 3. Why don't you? Anyway, um, so McCarthy is, still right within striking distance, and a strong preseason could catapult him into the, starting driver's seat. We'll see how that goes. The Broncos, this one was very interesting, although I still think Bo Nix has a shot at starting. Um, Jarrett Stidham, who finished the season last year. Remember when the Broncos essentially benched Russell Wilson and told him to go home, that they didn't want him to get injured because they were going to get rid of him this offseason. Stidham started the final 2 games of the season, and he played okay. And so right now, he's number one. Makes sense. He was in Peyton's offense last year. He should be the most comfortable because he's been there the longest. And right now, number 2 behind him is Zach Wilson, who they traded for from the Jets. And currently, third string at quarterback is rookie first round pick Bo Nix. So that's an interesting dynamic there. But I still think Bo Nix has a shot to start in Denver week 1. But right now, he's got to come off the pace. If this unofficial Deppy is accurate, he's got to come off the pace to make that happen. The Commanders named second overall pick rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels QB1 on their unofficial Deppy. No surprises there. Their head coach, Dan Quinn, had talked about this offseason, the process. He said it's not a secret that Jaden Daniels was drafted to start, but they have a process that they wanted to go through with him, and they were going to follow that process, and they've done that thus far. And Daniels has exceeded expectations. Hence, he is the undisputed QB1 for now. He's going to be QB1 officially at some point this summer. But for now, unofficial Dappy released, and Jaden Daniels is atop the quarterback position. The Steelers, obviously, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, everybody assumes that this is Russell Wilson's job to lose. So do I. He had a little bit of an injury in camp. Fields hasn't looked that bad. So there was a little bit of chatter as to whether Justin Fields could somehow sneak in there. And then there's been, just some quiet whispers about, hey, nothing's guaranteed to Russell Wilson. We'll see what happens. Well, unofficial Deppy released, Russell Wilson still first. So we'll see how the rest of the summer goes and if Russell Wilson can keep Justin Fields at bay. I assume the answer is yes, but we will see. So those are the Deppies that really jumped out at me. The Saints have an interesting battle for number 2, Jake Haener and rookie Spencer Rattler. And I told you, I think Spencer Rattler's got something, and I think that's a good spot for him. They've been really impressed with him in camp. And so he's battling Jake Haener, who was, I think, the 4th round or 3rd or 4th round pick last year in the draft for the Saints out of Fresno State. He's battling Haener for the right to back up Derek Carr. We know Carr has no issues getting injured and missing some time. So that's a prestigious spot because Derek Carr is solid, but he is not a world beater at the quarterback position. So if one of these young fellas can get in there and make some noise, a year or two from now, it could be your spot. So that's another one to keep an eye on out in New Orleans. But let's talk Brandon Aiyuk, man. Let's talk about this Brandon Aiyuk trade saga, man. So let me throw out this 00 real quick. I'm not even ashamed of this 00, but let me go ahead and throw this 00 out real quick. Okay, I was wrong, because I did not think we would get to this point where the 49ers would just throw their hands up in the air and say, all right, we don't feel like dealing with this shit. You want out, you want to get paid, you're going to play this game. We don't have time for this shit. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. And I've said this already, Brandon Aiyuk is replaceable. This is the thing that you have to understand. If he were irreplaceable, like Beyonce, then they would have done what they did with Deebo Samuel when Deebo Samuel went to the 49ers and said, I want to be traded. They said, hey, how much we got to get Deebo to get him back in here? Yeah. No, he said he wants to be traded. No, what we got to do? Yeah. Okay. You sure that's going to get it done? All right. Yeah, go ahead and do that. And next thing you know, Deebo went from I want out, and I'm up here on the podcast talking about maybe he wants to get closer to home. He's from South Carolina, this, that, and the third, to Deebo Samuel inks the blank highest deal in the NFL, stays in San Francisco. Everybody's singing Kumbaya. And I was like, wait a minute. What the hell just happened? Deebo Samuel happened. That's what happened. They realized there's no life without Deebo. And if you watch the receiver series, Kyle Shanahan told you there's no replacement for Deebo Samuel. There's not another Deebo that you just say, oh, we got another guy that can do some of the things that Deebo Samuel offers us. There isn't another one of those dudes. You can find another Brandon Aiyuk. He's good. He's not great. He's a good receiver. You can find another Brandon Aiyuk. So while they wanted to keep him, at least for this year, because at the end of the day, he could help them win a Super Bowl. The bottom line is they weren't going to pay him. And they can't. You can't pay everybody. Trent Williams wants more money, and they're going to have to ante up and pay him. He wants money because he doesn't have any more guarantees on his current contract. They got to pay Brock Purdy next year, right? They just gave McCaffrey, new money. They, not too long ago, paid George Kittle. They not too long ago paid Deebo Samuel. So they not too long ago paid Nick Bosa. They not too long ago paid Fred Warner. You can't pay everybody. You can't pay everybody. They just paid Mooney Ward not too long ago. So at some point, somebody's got to be the odd man out. They couldn't play Mike McGlinchey. They let him go to Denver. And they can't pay Brandon Aiyuk, so they're going to get something for him. I just didn't see this happening. I didn't see them caving into his demands. Now, I think it boiled down to, look, man, this guy's becoming a distraction. If we want to win, at least Trent Williams is holding out, but nobody's talking about Trent because he's not there and he's not making a spectacle of the situation. He's quietly waiting for the 49ers to give him a deal with some guarantees in it. Brandon Aiyuk seems to want the attention, right? He's been going on this whole crusade the entire offseason, documenting things on social media, doing things that are out of, whack, right? Involving players from other teams and things of that nature. And really going above and beyond the call of duty to make it known that he wants a contract. So finally, there was the bro hug heard around the world, right? Where he dapped up Kyle Shanahan, gave him a bro hug, and everybody said, oh, man, that must be the final bro hug. Like, he's getting out of there. This is it, right? So there were two interpretations of the bro hug. Either you were, oh, man, this is it. That he's saying his final goodbyes. or it was, oh, he about to get a deal done. I was never on either side of that fence. I was just like, it looked like he just dapped up his head coach. Like, oh, what up? I ain't seen you in a few days. What's good with you? Shit. Chilling, coaching the team. You know how we do it. So looking at that bro hug, that dap, it kind of now feels like the beginning of the end, right? Like that was him saying, hey man, appreciate everything you did for me. And that was it, right? And from that point on, he really hasn't been at 49ers practice. And now you wake up today and all of a sudden the 49ers have given this man permission to seek a trade. And you hear that two teams have deals essentially in place that they feel like are good compensation. And this is a very complicated situation, right? So the first two teams we were told that had, deals in place or at least offers that they had on the table for the 49ers were the Cleveland Browns and the New England Patriots. So those seem to be the two teams. And then we quickly found out that the Commanders had already pulled their name out of the hat. Like, yeah, y'all asking for a little too much. Price is a little too steep for me. I'm going to go ahead and bow out. Y'all go ahead and have fun with that. So the Commanders were like, yeah, I'm done. And then the Steelers reportedly were like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and get out of here too, man. Y'all can have it. Go ahead and y'all fight over him. So initially, it just felt like a two-team race, Patriots and Browns. And here's the thing that makes this so complicated. In the case of Aiyuk, he does not have a no-trade clause. So he can't veto a trade that involves him. But what he can do is he can say, I'm not signing a long-term deal with the New England Patriots. I don't want to go to New England. And if he doesn't agree, like it's the same thing that happened, if you remember, with Antonio Brown when the Steelers tried to trade him to the Buffalo Bills, and Antonio Brown didn't want to go to the Bills. He's like, I'm not signing a deal there. I don't want to go to Buffalo. And Buffalo's like, man, you bet. Nah, give me my shit back. I don't even want his ass now. Go find another trade partner, man. So the Steelers like, bro, bro? We trying to get your ass out of here, man. You can't be doing that stupid shit. And then they found the Raiders and they basically gave him away for a cold hot ham and cheese sandwich, right? They just were trying to get him out of there. And so at this point, Aiyuk, while he doesn't have a no trade clause, he still holds a hell of a lot of power because he could go, I don't want to play for the Patriots. So they could offer me whatever deal they want. I'm not signing it. I don't want to go there. And if the Patriots get wind of that, they can be like, well, bet. We're gonna take our picks and our money back, and we'll be straight. And so same thing with the Browns. If he doesn't want to go there, he could do that. I think he really wants to go to Pittsburgh. That's where he really wants to be. But then here's another layer. So the first layer is the teams have to be interested. So we know that there are two teams in particular. Then the second layer is Brandon Aiyuk has to want to go to that team, right? The third layer is that team has to then be willing to pay Brandon Aiyuk what he wants in a long-term deal. And then the fourth layer is, hey, you got to give San Francisco the proper compensation, or they can say, nah, I'm not good on that. You can't just give us anything. We need to get good compensation for this man because he still holds value for us. We don't have to trade him. Keep that in mind. They don't have to trade Brandon Aiyuk. They're going to. I mean, once you get to this point, there's no return. You're at the point of no return. You can't go back after you tell this man, hey, you go find a trade. You've essentially told him you're no longer a part of this team. You asked for a trade. You want it out. We're giving you your walking papers. Go find a trade. We'll get you out of here. There's no coming back from that. So he's going to be traded at this point. It's just a matter of when where and what the compensation is, right? Where, for what, and when is it going to happen? Feels imminent, right? Feels like tomorrow we could wake up and he's been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It feels like tomorrow at noon you're eating your lunch and the New England Patriots, breaking news, have just reached a deal with the San Francisco 49ers to acquire Brandon Aiyuk. It feels like it's going to happen sometime between Wednesday and Thursday, right? Whatever the case may be, there's a lot of layers, a lot of things to figure out. And then all of a sudden, the Steelers was like, yeah, we said we was out, but you think we can get this deal done with Rockefeller? They really need a number. I say that. I shouldn't say that. I think they have a number one receiver. What they don't have is a number two receiver, I think. And technically speaking, if they trade for Brandon Aiyuk, he would be their number one, and George Pickens would be their number two. But Pickens feels like he's got number one ability in Pittsburgh, but they traded Deontay Johnson. So technically speaking, there's not a number two, and they drafted the Michigan wide receiver, and he already has injured himself. So he'll be out a little while in camp. So they really don't have a true number two receiver. So whether you trade for a number one, which Aiyuk could be, or you feel like Aiyuk is, 1A and Pickens is 1B or whatever, whatever the case may be, that gives you a potent passing attack and a duo there. And then when you get the Michigan receiver back, that'll give you even more firepower, right? Not to mention the tight ends that you have and the running backs and things of that nature. So I think the Steelers are really, really interested. What's always funny to me is when you kick a team's ass, they don't forget that. They don't forget it. Like, the Commanders traded Sam Howell to the Seattle Seahawks. There weren't many teams around the league that thought highly of Sam Howell in the way that the Seahawks did. They gave up a pretty nice package to get Sam Howell. And it's because when they saw Sam Howell, he kicked their ass. So they were like, yo, this kid can play. I don't know what the hell happened in all these other games, but that kid kicked our ass. We know he can play. So they traded for him. And you think about the teams on that list outside of New England. I don't know when the last time the 49ers played the Patriots. I just know the Patriots understand that Aiyuk gives them something that they don't even have. They're not even remotely close to having a number one receiver on their team, right? So they know that they need one. They got a bunch of 2s and 3s and 4s in New England, nothing closely resembling a 1. So that's why they're so hard off and desperate to go get a guy like Aiyuk. But the Browns, he cooked the Browns last year. And in week 1, he destroyed the Steelers last year. So those teams saw him up close and personal, and he was like, yeah, nah, that dude is the truth. If we can get him, I'm all for it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 24 to 48 hours. Someone's going to give up the compensation that meets the 49ers demands. Someone's going to give Aiyuk a deal that makes him smile and happy. And there's going to be a destination that he goes, I wouldn't mind playing there. I think it's Pittsburgh, but the Steelers have never been a team that's, willing to give up a whole hell of a lot. They gave up a first-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick. But generally speaking, the Steelers aren't, out here wheeling and dealing. That's not how they operate. So I think that's going to be the hang up between the Steelers and the 49ers. I think the Patriots are willing to give up the draft capital. I think where the hang up might be there is Aiyuk might be like, look, if I'm going to go to the New England Patriots, they're going to have to pay me more. Like, I ain't going to New England to catch passes from Jacoby Brissett and then, eventually Drake May. It's New England. Like, I ain't really trying to do that. So they're going to have to pay me a little bit more. So I don't know if the Patriots are like, I don't really know if I'm trying to do all of that. And then Cleveland's interesting because that's a good football team. They got a number one receiver already. They got a bunch of stuff out there already. It's a very similar team. To me, if you ask me of the three teams, which one he would fit best in, it'd be Cleveland because that's a ready-made team. They were in the playoffs last year. And Kevin Stefanski is from that Shanahan, kind of tree, so to speak. And so the concepts are similar. He'd fit into what they do schematically. And to me, it'd be like hand in glove. So I really feel like Cleveland would be the best fit for him. But are they willing to part ways with what it's going to take? And do they even have the money? I'm interested with Cleveland. I'm fascinated. You're paying Deshaun Watson the most guaranteed money, dead money in the NFL right now. Like you can't get out of that contract even if you wanted to. You owe that man $63 million each of the next 3 years, I believe it is. So between him, Myles Garrett, I know they redid Chubb's deal, but you just gave some extra money to Amari Cooper. They're probably paying one or two of their offensive linemen. I know they paid Denzel Ward. Like they've shelled out quite a bit of money. I think they paid Juan Thornhill not too long ago, right? Like how much more money do they actually have? Didn't they pay David Njoku some good money? Like how much more money do they have? I'm not sure, but they've thrown their name in the hat. I know that much. So we'll see what happens, but that's a fascinating situation. And I just didn't see it escalating like this. I thought the 49ers were going to dig their heels in and play hardball. Like, bro, I hear what you're saying, but you have zero leverage. You can sit out all you want, but guess what? If you want to get paid, you got to play football this year. You can't sit out and get paid. So, yeah, you can sit out of camp this entire time, not practice, but when it gets close to football time, you'll suit up. T. Higgins was in the same predicament 3 months ago, and the Bengals said, man, get out of my face, bro. We're not trading you. You're not going anywhere. You're going to sign that franchise tag. You're going to play for us this year, and we're going to try to win a Super Bowl with you for one more year, and then you can find a new home next year. Somebody will pay you next year. It won't be us. We got to pay Jamar Chase. Sorry. But this year, you're going to play for the Cincinnati Bengals, and you're going to like it. And I thought the 49ers were going to do the same thing. You give us the best chance to win a Super Bowl. We haven't gotten over the hump, and I'm not looking for rookie wide receivers to get us over the hump. So while I love the draft picks, I'm a big fan of the receiver they took out of Florida. He's already banged up, and he's a rookie. So I'm not expecting him to come in here and have a 1,300-yard season in his rookie campaign. So I want you to play for us this year, whether you like it or you don't like it. And then after the season, how about this? We won't franchise tag you. Like, I just thought they could have gotten to Brandon Aiyuk, figured something out. They could have done what some of those teams did with those running backs last year, where you sign like a 1-year contract. And I assure you that I'm not going to franchise tag you, this, that, and the third, give you some guaranteed money, which he was going to get in the last year of a rookie contract. It was probably going to be some good money, but it ain't like life-changing, guaranteed money that's going to alter the course of his family's life moving forward. But they could have given him what would have amounted to, you know, a 1-year deal, X amount of guarantees, could have thrown some incentives in there if he reached certain milestones. And the big kicker would have been, and we won't franchise tag you after the season. You're free to go, bro. Go get your bag. But he wasn't trying to hear that shit. And I don't know if they ever offered him anything like that. I just didn't think they were going to cave. I didn't think they were going to cave. But they did. And I guess what it boils down to is he was becoming more of a distraction and a hindrance to their ultimate goal than a help. And at some point, you have to draw the line and understand what's at stake. And they looked at their situation and they said, hey, this dude is becoming a headache. Dealing with this shit every day, having this be in the media, having cameras catching this dude, everything he does. He gave Kyle Shanahan a bro hug and that shit went viral. It went viral. I know of at least 10 49ers fans who are like, bro, I want this shit over yesterday. At this point, I don't even give a shit. Trade this man, cut him, I don't give it. Just get this shit over with. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of hearing about it. 49ers fans are exhausted. And if they're exhausted, what do you think the coaching staff and the front office is in San Francisco? So I think they got to that point with Aiyuk. It's just amazing because I just felt like you're this close to climbing the mountain and getting to the top. You're this close. And you need Brandon Aiyuk to do it. Because if you trade him to a team, don't you need a receiver back in return if you're the 49ers? Like, don't you need a veteran? I feel like that's a must at this point. If I'm trading him to Cleveland, I need one of your receivers. Can't be Amari Cooper. Obviously, they're not going to do that. But there's got to be another guy in there that they go, you know what, let me get him. If it's New England, I don't know if I want any of those guys. Now, Kendrick Bourne is there, and he played in San Francisco, and he knows their system, and he's a really good receiver, but he's not Brandon Aiyuk. But he could offset the loss of Aiyuk. I'm traded with New England. Hey, let me get – now, he's coming off of, ACL, if I'm not mistaken, last year. Kendrick Bourne is. So I don't really know how they feel about that, but it's going to be tough because if you don't get a veteran in return in this deal, whatever draft compensation you get and a veteran receiver, I think it's going to be tough for them to replicate what they did a season ago. He's a big part of their offense. And like I said, I like Ricky Pearsall. I like the receiver they took later on in the draft. I think those guys can develop and play well in that scheme. Cowan, right? Out of Arizona. I like the Jacob Cowan coming out of Arizona. I like Ricky Pearsall a lot, but they're rookies. You can't ask Jawan Jennings and Deebo Samuel to man the ship by themselves. Not going to happen. Anyway, I digress. That Mr. Attitude Era, that's who I had in mind. Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's who I had in mind. I was like, if I'm trading with the Browns, I need Donovan Peoples-Jones and the 3rd round pick, and he's yours. That would get the deal done, right? Donovan Peoples-Jones in a 2nd or Donovan Peoples-Jones in a 3rd, and we'll call it a day. That would get the job done for me. But and to me, of the 3 teams and all the receivers that would probably be available from those teams, he'd probably be the best one. So, Van Negro Jones said Kendrick Bourne and Matthew Judon for Aiyuk. I've heard that trade boundied about, but this is the problem. What's the issue with Matthew Judon in New England? You're getting rid of one disgruntled player who wants to be paid for another disgruntled player who wants to be paid. Are you in a position to pay that man what he wants? Now, I don't know what he's exactly asking for. I think it's going to be much less than what Aiyuk was asking for at the receiver position. But again, are you in a position to, part of the reason you did not pay Aiyuk is because you need to start penny pinching and saving up your money to pay Brock Purdy next year. The money is not going down in terms of how much you have to pay a quarterback. It's only going up. As the next deal gets done and the next deal gets done, how much you have to pay Brock Purdy continues to rise. So, are you really looking to trade for a guy that wants money? That doesn't make a lot of sense if you're the 49ers. It makes a lot of sense from a roster standpoint, a edge rusher that could be a game changer, which is something they struggled with, which is why they traded for Chase Young and, signed Randy Gregory and all of those guys last year because they were looking for more pass rush, more juice off the edge. Judon would help tremendously, but he wants to be paid. So that's the only thing that I kind of struggle with if you're the 49ers. But that would be a great trade. Kendrick Bourne and Matthew Judon for Aiyuk. Because if the Patriots aren't going to pay him, somebody else needs to pay him. If you can kill two birds with one stone, why not? But again, how much is he looking for? And how much can you afford to pay him? That's the thing you got to start to consider, right? Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section real quick and see what you guys have to say, and then we'll get out of here. Ghost Rider says, I'm glad they're out of the Aiyuk trade. I never thought he was coming to Washington. Not on a trade, at least. If he stayed in San Francisco, which I thought he was going to stay in San Francisco, right? So I was dead wrong about that. I was adamant. My position and my stance was, what value, like Brandon Aiyuk holds more value to San Francisco than any other team in the league in the 2024 season, because they have a chance to do something that is extremely hard to do in this league, and that's win a Super Bowl. And he gives them the best chance to do that. So for me, I don't care how disgruntled he is. I don't care how upset he is or how he vows not to play. He's under contract. And when the season starts, he's going to put on his cleats and his pads, and he's going to get out there and play. So I just thought that's what was going to happen. But I'm like, he showed his ass. He showed his true colors. Like, I was not a fan of how he conducted business here. It's one thing to scrub your social media and to play that little game that guys like to do today. I get it. He took it to the umpteenth degree, though. He was doing too much. As my wife likes to say, team too much. I'm good on him. Ghost Rider asks, why does Cliff dislike press conferences? I don't think he dislikes press conferences. I just don't think that's his favorite thing to do, right? Some guys embrace press conferences, embrace the media, learn their names, all of that good stuff. And other guys just want to get it over with. He strikes me as a guy that just wants to get it over with. He's not unpleasant. He's not one of these dudes that you can tell clearly they don't want to be there. He's not one of those guys. I just think he doesn't love doing press conferences, and that's a lot of people. Van Negro Jones writes, man, I feel like we should all be listening while wearing all black. Rest well in Louie T thoughts, Amani Rogers. LOL. Look, man, it wasn't that big of a deal. To me, at least. Did I really think that the kid was talented? Excuse me. Yeah, I did. Did I think he could help us? Yes, I did. But I'm not there every day. and they clearly value attributes that he currently doesn't possess. And so I could see the writing on the wall. And that's why it didn't hit me hard, because I didn't even have him on my 53-man roster, because I saw him getting cut. I didn't see him getting cut on August the 6th. Okay. But I thought he'd get cut sometime in August, right? August 29th, August 30th, right? So it wasn't that he got cut that surprised me. It's when he got cut. But I told you, the beauty of listening to people talk, this is my superpower, is I can take what someone says, listen to it, internalize it, and then I can draw inferences and get to conclusions based off of what's been said. And they've been talking about when I say they, I'm talking about Dan Quinn. That man's been talking about physicality all camp long when it comes to the tight end position. This man shouted out John Bates after the first day of padded practices because of his physicality. If that's what you're basing your tight end infatuation on, Amani Rodgers is not the guy you're looking for. And the thing that was going to separate him, I talked to Logan Paulson, and I asked him specifically this question because it was in the back of my mind. I said, "Hey, Logan, how has Amani Rodgers looked? Does he look back?" And he's like, "Not yet. Usually take." And he had an Achilles, not an ACL. An Achilles, you can be back in 6 to 7 months from an ACL, and in 9 months be back to your normal self. You might not feel like you were prior to the injury for another 3 or 4 months, but by the time we get to a full calendar year, you should be running around feeling good. You got your confidence back in the knee, and you're out there playing ball. Excuse me, an Achilles is different. That's you don't start feeling like yourself, and like 70% of yourself until 9 months. Even though you've been running around out there for since the 7.5, 8 month mark, you don't start feeling like, hey man, I'm starting to trust my knee, my leg again, until like 9 months. And you don't start feeling like prior to the injury until another year and a half after the injury. So I wasn't expecting him to be out there flying around 4.5 40 Amani Rodgers, but clearly they didn't see enough to keep him. But it's all good, man. He's gonna land on his feet. Did you see that Dax Milne signed with the Raiders? Did you see that? Anyway, John Wynn says there's two QBs from the Steelers breakout during training camp where they got punches thrown for no reason. Yeah, I saw a little brouhaha in Pittsburgh where it was Steeler on Steeler violence. Generally you like to try to make sure that we not fighting each other. It's one thing to get into a joint practice setting and tempers flare, but we got to protect each other. We can't be out here fighting each other, man. So you hate to see that. Let's see. Any other comments? Gregory Lightbody says, why isn't AP going after Aiyuk? There's a number of reasons why. I've already told you, one of the things that goes sort of under the radar, and I don't know if this factored into their decision-making process or not. Probably didn't. But for me, one of the big things in a locker room is you can't, and this is what the organization used to do, and this is a bad precedence to set, is they would go out, get guys, and pay them these astronomical deals and not take care of the guys that were in the locker room that had already put it on the line for the organization, i.e. Ryan Clark, right? We saw, i.e. Antonio Pierce, but they were willing to go out and spend on Adam Archuleta and Jeremiah Trotter and all these other guys who didn't do it for us. Meanwhile, the guys who did do it for us end up going elsewhere and winning Super Bowls, like Ryan Clark and Antonio Pierce. So for me, I don't want to see them repeat the mistakes of the past. Terry, right now is the highest paid receiver. And I want to say Deron Payne, it might be Terry, I think it's Deron Payne, it might be Terry, is the highest paid, it is Terry, the highest paid player on the team. And that should be the pecking order right now. And if you trade for Brandon Aiyuk, you then have to make him the highest paid player on the team. How is that going to make some of the guys in the locker room feel? And then I take it a step further. Why are you giving up compensation for a guy in a year where you're not winning anything? When if you're as good a GM as you say you are, you should be able to find us talent. You should be able to find us a Brandon Aiyuk in the draft, right? And I've said this already. I don't know if Jahan Dotson is going to be what we drafted him to be or not, but I sure as hell would like to find out. If you trade for Brandon Aiyuk, that's dead. You're not going to be able to use Jahan Dotson in the way to find out if he's the true number 2 or not, because there's just not going to be enough targets for him. You got to get the ball to the running backs. You still got to get the ball to the tight ends. And then you got Aiyuk and Terry commanding most of the targets with the receivers. It just isn't enough to go around. At that point, you are essentially admitting that Jahan Dotson is nothing more than a number 3 option. And that may very well be the case. He may be nothing more than a number 3 in this league. But we don't know that for sure. This is a great season to find out. Is he capable of 69 catches for 1,058 yards and 9 touchdowns? If he is, then we don't need to do something as crazy and extreme as trade for a Brandon Aiyuk. We can just continue to find guys in the draft. If he's doing that next to Terry, then we don't need to do that. And then you don't have to give up draft capital. We're in the rebuilding phase. They don't want to admit it. They call it recalibrating. They can call it whatever the hell they want. But at the end of the day, you need all your picks. I don't really want to be giving up shit if I don't have to. Gregory Lightbody says, are you worried about this O-line entirely? Because rookie left tackle doesn't bode well for rookie quarterback. Not really. We'll see what it looks like. At the end of the day, I think Dan Quinn said it best. These guys earn the right to be in the positions that they're in. And so if Brandon Coleman is the best player to protect Jaden Daniels' blind side, then put him in the game. Put him in the game. And let's see what he's got. Like, there are too many fans that are so preoccupied with Brandon Coleman being a rookie. Instead of focusing on what he can do or what he might be able to provide, they keep harping on what he isn't able to do or shouldn't be able to do because he's a rookie. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. If he's good, get him on the field and let him get that experience. If he gets baptized in his rookie season and he's getting beat like he stole something, get him out of there. Get him out of there. There are other guys you can put in the game, but you won't know unless you put him in there, and he's earned the right to have the opportunity to prove that he can or he can't. And I'm always going to give guys the benefit of the doubt and say, until you show me that you can't, I'm just going to give you every opportunity to prove that you can. So I'm not worried at all. John Wynn says there's a conversation about removing the new kickoff rules this upcoming season, and all 32 teams haven't tried out the new kickoff rules yet. There's no such conversation taking place. Okay, at the end of the day, they put it in for a year, which is this upcoming season. They're going to review the data and see how it went. I'm telling you, this is going to end up being successful. And after the season, they're going to lock this in, just like they did the extra point, just like they did the overtime rules. They're going to lock it in. If it's a disaster, they'll do it just like they did the challenging pass interference rule, and they'll do away with it. But I'm telling you, it's going to add excitement to the game, and the concussion numbers will go down, and they'll go, this was a great success, and the dynamic kickoff is here to stay. Watch. Joshua says, first of all, I'm gonna need you to fix that Louie and make that S a E. I'm gonna do you a solid this time and read the comment, but that bothers me. Fix the E. All right, fix the S and make it an E. Okay. He says, do you think Washington wears a true gold or a mustard yellow? I say mustard yellow. The Niners and Saints wear gold, in my opinion. Yeah, it's a yellow, but we call it gold. It is what it is. Like, there's varying degrees of gold. Um, so I don't know if you've ever seen like the color palette, and if you've ever paid attention to the name of colors in a 64 count crayon box. I don't know how old you are, and I don't know, if you even paid attention to that when you were a kid and you used crayons. But there was a crayon in the box called Goldenrod, right? Goldenrod. And that goldenrod looked just like the Washington Commanders yellow. So again, there's varying degrees, and there's different spectrums on, in the different hues. And, yeah, if we're being technical, yeah, it's yellow, right? Nobody's really debating that, but we don't call it yellow. It's burgundy and gold. It's always been that way, and that's what it's going to continue to be. But no, you're not wrong. If you are looking at teams in the league and you say whose colors closely resemble the actual color gold, yeah, the Saints and the 49ers, they check that box. I'd tell you that Tampa Bay's pewter is closer to gold, and that's like a dark silverish. That's closer to gold than our gold, yellow pants are, but it's gold. Like, semantics. Who gives a shit? It's gold. Let's see. Gregory Lightbody says, what are your expectations for Jaden against the Jets defense in training camp? I don't have any. And like, I keep telling y'all this. I don't think y'all believe me. I'm not putting expectations on anybody really this season. I'm really just going to enjoy the season and let it play out. So I'm not putting any expectations. There's certain guys, I'm going to be honest with you, there's certain guys that I want them to step up this season, and I'll be disappointed if they don't. Deron Payne is at the top of my list, but Jahan Dotson is another one, right? But I'm not putting expectations on anybody, really. I'm just going to enjoy the season, right? I'm just going to enjoy the season. So let them go out there, let it rip, let them, be free, play. And if he makes mistakes, he makes mistakes. That's a part of the game. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the final segment of the show and garbage time. So we got preseason football this week, folks, and I want to run through the slate real quick and talk to you about the games that kind of stand out on the slate. So usually preseason football is hit or miss for me because there's so many games and it's hard to keep up, but teams don't value the preseason like they once did. So the preseason doesn't really hold the same value for me like it once did. But I got a valuable lesson last year. The Steelers and Kenny Pickett were going up and down the field all preseason last year, and I bought in hook, line, and sinker. Oh, shit, look out for the Steelers this year. Kenny Pickett is locked in. first game of the season, the 49ers went to Heinz Field and stomped a mud hole in their ass. And I said, well, looks like I got bamboozled. So, and they ultimately made the playoffs and did the Steeler thing that pisses off Steeler fans. They got there and then got beat up and got sent home, right? That's the Tomlin thing that they say in Pittsburgh. But anyway, I try not to put too much stock in the preseason, but I can't help myself. It's football. So this is what the slate looks like in week 1 of the preseason. You got 2 on Thursday, 3 on Friday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on Saturday, and then another 2 on Sunday to close out the week. So Thursday, I was really looking forward to Patriots and Panthers. I shouldn't be, but I was. I'm already disappointed because the Panthers are not going to play Bryce Young, and he should be getting as many reps as he can. And I'm like, why? But why? Are you trying to hide something from me? Hmm. Hmm. Are you hiding something from me? Why isn't he playing? A possession wasn't going to hurt. Just give me one. I'm a little skeptical, right? I expect to see Drake May and a lot of Drake May in the game. So that'll still make it watchable. If he doesn't play in the game, then what are we doing here, folks? Like, seriously. You're not going to get much from the Giants and the Lions. I don't expect either one of their quarterbacks. That's why you had 2 joint practices between the 2 teams. I don't expect either one of them to play their starters in that game. Friday, you got Texans, Steelers. That's interesting because if I'm the Steelers, somebody needs to play. Russ probably could use some snaps. I don't think he'll play, but Justin Fields should be playing in that game. I don't think you're going to see CJ Stroud at all in the preseason. So there's that. The Falcons, I'm locked in because I know I'm getting me some Michael Penix Jr. in that game. Not going to get anything from the Dolphins, and then you're not going to get anything of any kind of quality from either the Eagles or the Ravens. That's going to be a terrible watch there. Saturday, Jaden Daniels is starting versus the Jets. So that in itself gives you a reason, if nothing else, to watch the first possession or 2 of that game. Caleb Williams, will he or won't he? That's the $1 million question. If he does play, then that's must-see TV, right? If he doesn't, then that's going to be a terrible game because the Bills aren't going to play Josh Allen. They never play Josh Allen, really. Well, I shouldn't say never. They usually play him in one preseason game, and that's it. But he's not playing in this one, I can assure you of that. Raiders and Vikings, it'll be interesting because the Raiders need reps. They need reps. The Vikings should be playing J.J. McCarthy in their game because he's not the starter. So that should be a game worth watching. Packers, Browns, I don't think you're going to get anything out of that game. Neither team should be playing any of their starters. Same could be said with the Bucks and Bengals. You won't see anything there. Chiefs and Jags, you won't see anything there. Niners and Titans. I wonder if the Titans will play Will Levis. One can only imagine. I think you should put him out there, but we'll see, right? 49ers aren't going to play Brock Purdy. Chargers, and I would think that Aiyuk would be traded by then too on Saturday. I think he will be gone by Thursday, but we'll see. Seahawks and Chargers, they both don't give 2 shits about the preseason. Geno's banged up. Sam Howell has been stinking it up reportedly. I got to go check on my guy. So I'll be tuning into that. I got to go check on my guy. Make sure he's okay. People are talking shit about my guy. Still NHO, baby. I got to go check on my guy, make sure he's okay out there. Saints and Cards. The Cardinals have already come out and said Kyler Murray is not playing in the preseason at all whatsoever. But I still got to go look at Spencer Rattler. I got a thing for Spencer Rattler and his game. Pause. So I'm gonna go check on Spence and see what he's out there doing because I think he's got a chance to be really good for the Saints. And then on Sunday, August 11th, you got the Broncos and the Colts. I think that's a must-see game because Bo Nix is going to play in that game. And if I'm the Colts, they're probably not going to play Anthony Richardson, although they probably should play Anthony Richardson. They're probably not going to. With his injury history, he probably won't see a lot of action in the preseason, and I don't blame them. But the Broncos are going to be playing all three of those quarterbacks, and I don't mind seeing any of them: Jarrett Stidham, Bo Nix, or Zach Wilson. So that'll be, I mean, that's all 4 quarters for the Broncos is probably watchable because they have 3 quarterbacks there that are in the mix. And then the worst game of the weekend is, if it's not Ravens and Eagles, it's Cowboys and Rams, because neither of those teams give 2 shits about the preseason. So you're going to get backups galore in that game as well. So really looking forward to any team with young quarterbacks, because you know they're going to play for the most part. Outside of Caleb Williams, we still don't know if he's going to get the nod in this game. But I expect to see Drake May on Thursday. I expect to see Michael Penix Jr. on Friday. I expect to see Jaden Daniels on Saturday. I expect to see Spencer Rattler on Saturday. I got to check up on Sam Howell on Saturday. So, and I'm hoping to get some Caleb Williams. I expect to see JJ McCarthy on Saturday. So there's a lot here with all the young quarterbacks. 6 went in the first round. So we got some preseason action to digest, right? And then, Sunday, I get the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts. So every single day, there's at least one rookie quarterback that will be playing that will give you a reason to tune in or at least check the highlights, if nothing else. So I'll be locked in. I think I'm going to go live on Thursday night after the Patriots and Panthers game. I don't know if I'm going to go. I don't think there's any games that would necessitate me going live on Friday. Obviously, I'm going to be live after Commanders Jets on Saturday afternoon. And I think I'm going to go live on Sunday potentially after the Colts and Broncos, if it necessitates that kind of activity from me. But that's the week 1 preseason slate. It should be an interesting start to the preseason. I actually think this is going to be a very entertaining preseason because of how many young quarterbacks are sprinkled amongst the league. And so teams have to see what they have. You're going to throw those young. I mean, you had 6 quarterbacks go in the first 12 picks. So those 6 quarterbacks are going to play outside of maybe Caleb Williams. And so 5 of the 6 are going to play. Then you got the Saints, trotting out Spencer Rattler. So I just think that there's going to be enough action around the league that keeps you somewhat intrigued in week 1. And then I think you're going to get some teams that bypassed the first week of the preseason that are going to actually throw I think the Chiefs might throw Mahomes out there in the second preseason game, for a possession or 2. And then you're not going to see anybody in the third preseason game. So I think some teams will say, you know what, let me get my starter just a couple reps. I could see the Bills doing that with Josh Allen in the second preseason game. Some teams even do it in the third preseason game. Most teams do it in the second, however, because you don't want to risk injury in that third preseason game. It's too close to the season. At least if a guy tweaks an ankle in the second preseason game, you've got the third preseason week, the week after that where there's no activity whatsoever other than trimming the roster down. And then you got a whole nother week before the game. So you got 3 weeks essentially to rest that ankle and get ready for week 1, versus if you do something in the third preseason game, now you only got 2 weeks, and that's a tough ask, right? So I think you're going to see some teams maybe roll the dice in week 2 of the preseason, but it's enough rookies that I think it should be a good watch this preseason. And I think week 1 is going to be sort of a precursor to what is a good preseason this year. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 438th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time, whenever that is. The schedule is all over the place, as you can see, but um, I'll definitely be live after a few of these games during the course of this week, and it should be very interesting if we see some of these young quarterbacks get out there. I remember doing the same thing for C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young last year, and I enjoyed that. And now we're getting it times 3. Those were the only 2 quarterbacks to go in the first round last year, and so this year we're getting it times 3. We had 6 first round quarterbacks. So that expand well, no, I'm telling the story. Anthony Richardson went in the first round as well last year. I think he was the third and final quarterback to go in the first round last year. So we're timesing it by 2. But you also have Spencer Rattler, who went in the 4th or 5th round, I think the 5th round. And I think he's got some talent. So I'm interested to see what he does as well. But anyway, I digress. And there's some other players, right? Not just the quarterbacks. There's some receivers that went in this draft. You know, there's some running backs. There's some other positional players that you want to take a look at. There's some edge rushers that went. So there are other positions, but at the end of the day, it's about the quarterbacks. You know, if the quarterback isn't playing, then it's not likely that the receiver is playing. If they're going to put, their star receiver on the field, it's because the starting quarterback's playing. So, like, I don't expect to see Malik Neighbors out there for the Giants if Daniel Jones isn't out there, right? So you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I digress. You guys have a good one. Take care. I'll see you guys next time. You already know what it is. Y'all take care. God bless. Good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.